President Julien Blanc, and we're here to ask you today, are you an addict to negative energy? Are you exhibiting similar characteristics to a drug addict, to a heroin junkie, as far as your addiction to negative energy? And are you in fucking denial and telling yourself crazy stories about why your negativity is justified? The reason we're going to bring this up is because you and I were talking today at Starbucks about how one of the main things that actually made us start to believe that people are addicted to negative energy, or made us believe in weird ideas like low vibration energy, like we're very, very skeptical. One of the things that got us believing it was that we noticed a direct correlation between friends of ours who, the ones that are the most negative, whenever you talk to them about how they might be addicted, are the most resistant. So for example, whenever you talk to somebody who's very, very negative, and you say to them, are you maybe addicted to this? You will see the most amount of backlash of anybody. And many of these people are actually open-minded to almost anything. Like, you could talk about UFOs, you could talk about a Sasquatch, you could talk about government conspiracy, you could talk about almost anything. And they're very open-minded to these different ideas. But as soon as you talk to them about the fact that they could be addicted to negative energy, and that the negativity that they're exhibiting is actually not rational, but simply their mind being dragged around by low vibration energy, it's almost like Dracula with a cross or garlic. It's like, that's not true. There's no negative energy. This is justified. I gotta produce results. This is garbage. You're garbage. Why are you thinking like this? And they will have this massive backlash. And what I would suggest to you is even to try an experiment. I want you to think of anybody you know that if you look in their eyes, you can tell they're hooked on negativity. And you can tell this by their demeanor, by the fact that they don't want to laugh when you tell jokes, by the fact that if you kind of rate their emotional set point, it's usually at a lower level than optimal. And when you go to them and suggest these ideas, watch how much backlash there is. And what you'll realize when you dig deeper into this, and it's really hard to see at first, but once you start seeing it, it's so fucking obvious. There is actually a very similar nature to addiction to negative energy that a heroin junkie has in their rationalization and justification of their addiction to heroin.
Yeah, this just pisses me off, man. Why the fuck you even bringing that up?
Dude, you're addicted to negative energy.
No, fuck that shit. Like,
Dude,
even hearing about this, get the fuck out. Like, so what we're talking about in this video is addictions, okay? And it's very easy to see in a drug addict, if you look at someone on the street shooting up heroin or sniffing coke, that cocaine, that yayo, which is everywhere here in Miami. It's very easy to spot. But what's a lot harder to spot is subtle emotional addictions and the ways that you, that's right, you are addicted right now.
We say to the drug addict, how can you possibly do this to yourself? How can you possibly inject this terrible substance into your body that may kill you? But look at what we're doing to the earth. We're injecting all kinds of things into the atmosphere and the oceans and the environment that is killing us, that's killing the earth. Now, which addiction is greater? The addiction to oil or to consumerism? Which causes the greater harm? And yet we judge the drug addict because we actually see that they're just like us, and we don't like that.
So to help with this, I thought I'd throw a few examples. You know, and a common one that I see quite a lot when I run, say, live events is I'll do a little introduction talk, and we kind of introduce the themes of the event, and then we crack into some processes and some exercises. And there's always a few people a little bit resistant, like, you know, I like when you talk. Feed me a little bit more content, a little bit more information.
Mind stuff.
A little bit more entertainment, and they resist doing the actual work. Because doing the actual work, guess what, will force you to change. You can't avoid it. So it's easy to think that, you know, those little exercises are for the dumb ones. You know, it's for the little fans. Let them do their stupid little exercise. I got it. You can also see this when you read books, and it's like, fill out the blank. You're like, I'll skip that. Let me get back to the content, because you don't want to change. The same with being aware of those addictions. Like, you know, we joke about when we show some of our friends, like even our friends, our videos, they're like, you know what? I can think of a few. They're like, you know what? I love all your videos. It's amazing. I don't know about those, you know, those videos where you talk about low vibration energy, when you talk about negativity, when you talk about emotional addictions. I see how it could apply to some, the idiots, the ignorant few, but not me. You know, I get it. When in reality, those are the people that need it the most.
Yeah, the biggest things that we see with our friends is that they'll rationalize that we talk about addiction and negativity like we're doing it for some kind of marketing purpose. And typically those are the guys that are actually carrying the most negativity. And frankly, if you even say, no, this is a major issue that we're very passionate about, they start to
Like,
freak
sure,
out.
yeah, sure.
You know, so then we're just like, great marketing, teaching these guys about negative energy because, frankly, they're just not ready to change. And what Julien's talking about as far as the subtlety of being unwilling to actually do an exercise of change, but wanting more content, well, rather than looking at other people, let's look at it in yourself right now. Say that we say to you, get present to the moment for 7 seconds. 7 seconds. And rather than just being entertained by the content, we're going to ask you for 7 measly fucking seconds to get present to the moment. Can you actually pause and do it? So let's do it as an example. Did you do it? Or did you just start thinking, what the fuck is this, and refuse to get present to the moment? Well, that same addiction to thinking and to getting fed mind stuff is the same thing that, say, a drug addict is doing, but on a larger scale.
While the greatest addiction you never read about it in the papers, because the people who are addicted to it don't know it, it's the addiction to thinking. It's actually addictive. Can't stop thinking, it's like can't stop drinking, can't stop smoking, can't stop eating, can't stop thinking.
Look at people who are like hardcore addicts, like the stereotype. Like, okay, the alcoholic at the bar just can't stop drinking. But that's obvious. The question is, how are you addicted and how can you snap out of it and realize it? Because everyone here is addicted to something. And that's what makes it so fucking difficult. It's like everyone's hooked. So it's like we're all alcoholics here, surrounded by alcoholics, and someone's telling you, you might be an alcoholic. You're like, no, this is how it is. This is how everyone else is. Why the fuck would I be addicted? So that's the challenge here. See if you can snap out of it and don't resist taking that perspective. Again, being aware of something is the first step to changing it, and that's why even our friends were like, check it out. It might apply to you. And they're like, no. I see what you're doing. Like, look, you don't have to lie to me. I'm not one of the dumb ones. It's like, no, dude, you need this.
My definition of addiction is any behavior that gives you temporary relief, temporary pleasure, but in the long term causes harm, has some negative consequences, and you can't give it up despite those negative consequences. And from that perspective, you can understand that there's many addictions. Yes, there's the addiction to drugs, but there's also the addiction to consumerism. There's the addiction to sex, to the internet, to shopping, to food. The Buddhists have this idea of the hungry ghosts. The hungry ghosts are creatures with large empty bellies and small scrawny necks and tiny little mouths, so they can never get enough. They can never fill this emptiness on the inside. And we all hungry ghosts in this society. We all have this emptiness. And so many of us are trying to fill that emptiness from the outside.
When you talk to a drug addict about the fact that they're addicted, they're going to always rationalize that addiction as something that they need to do or something that they're in control of. So somebody who's on cocaine, for example, they're always going to say, you know what, it's just like taking a cup of coffee, and it's not a big deal. I can stop anytime I want. I'm a social user. And anytime that somebody actually tries to get them off of it, they're going to probably distance themselves from those people or have some kind of backlash, okay? And an addict, what they're doing is they're essentially continually going back into a comfort zone because their synaptic pathways are just going down this very specific track. And what you're going to see is that same need to get high on cocaine or to get fucked up on heroin, that is the same thing that is pulling your mind back into things like complaining or a victim complex or feeling like you're at the effect and not the cause of your life or looping on people who bothered you or just not having the gratitude for what you're seeing. Now, when you want to really break down how much this is an addiction, I would just simply ask you, how amazing is your fucking life? Even if you would rate your life as garbage right now, like it's just not going well, your life is so short. It's so precious. The fact that you have a beating heart, that you have air going through your lungs, that you have the ability to even watch this video and understand it because you understand language. The fact that there's food available from grocery stores. I mean, even the most baseline starting point of your life is so fucking amazing that if you're actually going into negativity in any frequent way at all, that is a mark of addiction. So when you're sitting here going into, say, complaint, going into frustration, going into any type of mental loop, ask yourself a simple question. Could you stop if you wanted to? Okay, well, that being the case, try stopping for one day. Challenge yourself to even go one single day without complaining or negativity or being a victim, and see if you can.
Get a little bracelet or a little rubber band, and every time you catch yourself complaining, switch wrists. So it's like, start today. Okay, I'm going to put this little bead thing on this hand. No complaints, still complaints. And then you're like, fuck, this one thing. Or, this person. The Uber's late. Any little complaint, switch to the other hand.
If you see someone mad, they're out.
Okay. And what if you see somebody sad?
They're out too. If you're can't stop thinking all the time, we're not playing.
Now, what I want you to do is consider that you might even be addicted to thinking itself.
The pain body tries to provoke when it needs to replenish itself, then it feeds on the drama, or it can feed, if there's nobody around, on your thoughts. Negative. Every negative thought it gets in. My life is so fucked up. It's so, God, it's so dreadful. Can it get any worse? Or what these people that are so, these dreadful, I just hate these people. Why is this stuff always happens to me, doesn't it? It's just bound to happen to me. Why can I never get things right? Why can they never get things right?
If you've read books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, what you'll realize is that your mind is actually running you, and you're getting a sense of self out of it, and also you simply can't stop yourself from thinking because it's an addiction to thinking. Well, why is this important? I mean, isn't thinking good? Of course thinking is good. But the question is, do you want to be always thinking and present to the moment, maybe just once in a while when you're skiing or listening to music? Or do you want to be present to the moment, running on instinct, running on your most powerful level of awareness of everything that's happening around you, and then maybe thinking from time to time when you need to activate your mind to maybe do some kind of complex calculation that your just simple present awareness is not going to handle for you? And what I would say to you is that most people, they don't realize that, yes, thinking is good, but they are mind-dominated. And this is an actual addiction that is fueled by consumer culture. It's fueled by other people around you that are in the same mode. And basically, you have the social environment that you're in that's always pulling you back into thinking, and people who have an agenda to make you very mind-dominated, pulling you back into thinking. Now, why is this a problem? Well, what I would say to you is that something as simple as like what Julien or I would do with public speaking, you've got to realize that's usually going to be coming from present energy. Anything genius or brilliant that you do is probably going to be coming from a present state of awareness. Great decisions, high quality decisions, great humor, a great mood, being happy, enjoying life, letting in the beauty of life is typically coming from being aware and present to the moment. You could read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now and A New Earth, as a entry point to these Eastern philosophy type ideas. And basically, once you understand this, you can begin to shift from continually thinking to being aware and thinking when you need to.
Presence is a space of no thought, but presence can also be there in the background even when thinking is happening. You can still be not completely involved in the thinking. Thinking loses the ability to create havoc in your life and confuse you.
Can you stop thinking? And if not, does that mean that you're addicted? How does that addiction to thinking, addiction to complaining, addiction to reactiveness, addiction to having enemies, to feel more real, to know who you are through your thinking, how much is that similar to a drug addict? And how much are you in this continual loop where any time that anybody would suggest to you to stop doing that, you react against it because you can't stop?
Yeah, so step number one, admit you're an addict. And you might be resistant, like, fuck no, I'm not an addict. Even hearing this video, like, I get why they're saying it for the other people. No, for you.
It's for you.
Okay? Admit you're an addict and look for the subtle ways. And a great way to see it is look for the recurring patterns in your life. In your entire life on a day-to-day basis. What are the thoughts you're addicted to? What are the emotions you're addicted to? What do you feel the most? We think every day is a new day. No, every day is fucking Groundhog's Day. Today, like 90% of your thoughts are the same thoughts you had yesterday, the day before, and the day before that. The same with your emotions. You wake up, same little concern, like, here we go, another day, get to work, fucking Ben fucked me over again, god damn it, the customer fucked me over, this thing fucked me over, I'm tired, I don't really want to do it, like, super common, everyone like, I'm tired. Doesn't matter what you do, what time of day you are, what activity you're doing, I'm tired. Same excuses, same anxiety, over and over and over again. If there are patterns in your life, you are hooked on something, you are being run. And that's really the question. Are you in control or is it control of you?
Proactive or reactive?
And anything can be an addiction. You know, we're talking about, say, the mind thinking. and also catch the rationalizations there. Anyone who's like, oh, I don't know about this, being present to the moment, the rationalization is often, I consider myself an intellectual. I don't know about this. I'm a very smart, logical, analytical person. This present stuff doesn't apply to me. No, it applies to you more than anyone else. Okay, so catch the rationalizations, and oftentimes they make sense too. It's like it's based in real facts. It's like, well, look, I'm complaining, but it's because this person fucked me over, and they might have fucked you over, but what you're doing is, instead of, for example, addressing it and moving on from that, you just keep fixating on it and using it to fuel that emotional addiction. Okay, so look for the patterns, do an audit, write it down, catch the rationalizations, and don't think that this doesn't apply to you. It does. And once more, there's a lot of resistance to being aware of it, because as soon as you realize this now, you're like, maybe there are a couple patterns. Now you're fucked. Now you have to change. Now you have to let go of the ultimate comfort zone. Like, this is the ultimate comfort zone, that deep-rooted addiction to your identity and those emotions that just keep coming over and over again, the same thoughts over and over again.
When you see it, you're not completely addicted anymore. You're only completely addicted when you don't see it. When you see it, you are the awareness. When there's no awareness, you are it. Then you are the ego. Then you are the ego that's addicted to unhappiness.
What's really misunderstood here is that a drug addiction like cocaine or heroin, you'd probably think it's meeting some kind of emotional need and you're getting some kind of pleasure out of it. And that is definitely partially true. Many people who do drugs will report what euphoric feelings they feel. But at the same time, there's something underlying it that a lot of people don't consider, which is an addiction to being unconscious, an addiction to being away from present energy. So something like cocaine or heroin, it's actually a very physical experience. It's very much in the body and out of presence. But weirdly, it shoves you so much in the body that it kind of feels like you're getting present in a weird way, because you're like, oh, like that. But actually, you're probably the furthest thing from being present of anything that you could be. And what it does is it shuts out all present energy to where you're completely like the physical, and it's almost like getting everything that you could ever want in this one epic dose. So imagine getting sex, food, massage, great air, all put into one with some kind of drug, and you're just completely unconscious because of the fact that it feels too fucking good. And that seems to make sense when you don't know what present energy is, when you don't understand the ideas in the Eckhart Tolle Power of Now type books, when you don't know what it means to be in state from, say, going out and socializing or getting into a flow state, which are in many ways the most ecstatic feelings that you could ever have. They're more subtle, they're more nuance of feelings, but it's incredible because the difference is when you're fucked up, you're not really in control. You are below the thinking mind. So you escape the thinking mind by going below it, and you get addicted to that. Versus when you're becoming present to the moment, you're going above the thinking mind. You can learn this from Eckhart Tolle. He talks about this a lot. Now, that being the case, let's examine, again, drug addiction, I need it, or I'm not addicted, or I could stop anytime that I want. With thinking, you think that you could stop whenever you want. With complaining, you think that you can stop whatever you want. With getting an ego or sense of identity through your enemies, what country you're from, the reactivity that comes from the blowback. You get mad at someone, they get mad at you, and you know who you are, and you don't need to be present. So much of life is addiction to not being present, and you could even bring this back to what Julien covers in Transformation Mastery, addiction to trauma energy. You get traumatized and you get addicted to whatever energy that you're getting out of that trauma, and will continue going back again and again and again to thoughts that trigger those traumas. If you look at your day and you get mad or annoyed at something, and then say that it gets fixed, it's almost like a Kleenex getting pulled out of the box, and then another Kleenex comes up. So that thing that you're mad about, or that weird victim identity that you're getting, or whatever it is, whenever the bad thing gets removed, a new thing pops up. And I've known this from people I've associated with or past relationships where that person may have addiction to negativity. They complain about something, you fix it, and then the next Kleenex comes up as a placeholder for their addiction to those emotions. So what you've got to do is audit how your mind is kind of running you throughout the day, and realize that there's basically like a certain amount of day dedicated to being happy, sad, pissed off, angry, victim, grateful, and that essentially your mind will just, in an addictive fashion, find thoughts to feed the emotions that you're addicted to.
Look at the core identity you're addicted to, like who you are, who you picture yourself as, the identity you've taken on, usually during your childhood, and you've been reinforcing, you've just been hooked on up until this day. One that I had for a long, long time is the self-destructive artist. You know, I could kid myself, you know, consciously, like, I'm not self-destructive. What are you talking about? Yet, I'd keep creating situations or finding situations that would reinforce and keep that identity alive. If, for example, I worked on becoming a little too healthy, if I'm full healthy, I'm not self-destructive. So guess what? I'll be pulled back to it. If I'm in a relationship and things start going a little too nice, I'm like, this is boring, and I'll be pulled back to it. The same with success. A little too much success, I can't be successful, I'm no longer self-destructive. Pulled back to it. And then, of course, I'll have all the reasons, and all those reasons make sense. Like, okay, I pulled back because of this. I was pulled back because of that. But no, the truth is that emotional addiction. There was a part of me getting what I actually wanted, what I was hooked on. And it's way too scary to let go of an identity you've taken on from a young age, your entire life. There's so much investment, and if you let go of it, then what are you? The same with different core assumptions. Like, if you've taken on from your childhood that love equals abandonment, here you are trying to get into all these relationships with people who most likely are not available. People who leave you, people who cheat on you. Yeah, people who will traumatize you.
Energy.
If your definition of a relationship in love is fighting, you're going to get in all these fights in your relationship. It's going to be very volatile.
Fighting allows you to go more unconscious.
Yeah.
And feel more like an identity.
And you'll find reasons like, well, that person did that, and they may very well have done it. However, you're using it and most likely amplifying it to feed that fucking addiction.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this too, where even with like close friends of mine, and they're fighting and fighting and fighting for years, and I get to the point where I just fix it for them. I'm like, you know, I'm so sick of this fighting. Oh, yeah. I'm just going to fix everything for you. What do you need from me? 100 grand? I'm fixing this right now. And even when you offer them a situation where it could be fixed, it's like, no, now let's just blow everything up so that we can even be closer together than ever. It's almost like when you have a fight with somebody, it's almost like you're fucking them. Because like they're more in your consciousness than ever. And to just let go, it's almost like you're losing somebody that you're fucking. And I've seen this really, like I said, let's kind of like bring it back to this idea. Maybe this will be something just to leave you with food for thought. We'll wrap it here. It's always the people who are the most addicted that have the most reactive response whenever you talk about the fact that they're addicted. And it's almost unfortunate that a lot of these ideas are shrouded in new age, this like new agey like type stuff, because that's the easiest way to write it off, what's happening.
Yeah. Oh, it's just some hippy dippy shit. Yeah.
Hippy dippy shit.
Where's the scientific proof?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're new in modern society, but the scientific proof is just using your common fucking sense and being a student of human nature, looking at people and really monitoring it, getting good at auditing behavior and seeing what happens. So that being the case, if you're somebody who's been addicted on negative energy for a long time, and you're hearing about this and you're like, no, bullshit, whatever, and finding excuse after excuse after excuse to get out of it, or like that Dracula response, realize you're a candidate to be somebody who's clearly fucked up over this. And look, if you can get out of it and start to move forward a little bit, how much happiness that you could get out of life and how many incredible results you could get out of life can go up and up and up, you know? And I really think that's what we should wrap on. But any other final thoughts just to kind of knock this out? Knock it out of the park, Julien.
To knock it out, man, put the cocaine down.
Put it down.
For real, put it down. You're watching this. If you made it this far and you're triggered by this, good. You learned something. You know, you're like, fuck this, fuck this. If there's that type of energy in you, that type of reaction, or the rationalization's kicking in, like, oh, I don't know, or who are they to tell me this? Good, you're a fucking addict.
And by the way, the smarter the person, the more likely they are to be an addict. They're stuck in their head, they're all smart. You're a little too smart.
A little too smart. Be a little dumber. Put the cocaine down, put the heroin down, put the weed down, put the molly down, all of it down. And perhaps you might find a more sustainable, healthy, expanding drug, which is called presence, which is called life. A free life, free from addiction.
This is Julien, and welcome to Transformation Master.
It was fucking amazing.
This was huge for me. This was so important.
This gave me by far the greatest epiphanies I've ever had.
It just made me finally confront my deepest fears.
And we got like real deep, and I found some issues within myself.
One of the best things I've seen so far in my life.
What you're about to experience going through this program is what completely changed my life on every single level. Okay, be it health, wealth, relationships, higher purpose, you name it. This is the stuff that finally produced that true, long-lasting personal transformation we're all after.